Hey guys, welcome. I almost said kid missing again. To Punky's World. I think this is going to be the last video for today because I don't want to get behind, and this will be the third video for today, and I still have to upload yesterday's. Anyway, what I want to do is give you a biography of one of my favorite wrestlers, but I'm not regurgitating Wikipedia here. I'm going to put his picture up right next to me, right there, while I talk about him. First of all, he was born Daniel Christopher Covell on March 24th, 1970 in Kalamazoo, Michigan. When he was a young child, his family moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where he was raised on Jim Crockett Promotions. So he was raised on Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, all that. And he really enjoyed it. He liked it and thought about doing it, but he wasn't an amateur wrestler. He actually was a soccer player. He played throughout high school. He played during college. He didn't play all the way through college, but he did play in college. So he must have been a decent player to get on the college team. He got his degree from Methodist University in North Carolina in theater. While attending university doing summer stock theater, he met his wife, Lisa, or his future wife, Lisa. And she is the one that actually sent him to wrestling school. They were in Chicago trying to get into the theater. And he said, I would get work at children's theater, but it didn't pay much. But it was work. So he held down a day job, and he told his wife, that he'd like to try wrestling. If the acting thing didn't work out, it really wasn't. So she found a wrestling school, as I mentioned. It was Windy City Wrestling, run by Sam DeCero, with head trainer Mike Anthony. So they trained a future fallen angel. It came easy to him. He had an athletic background, as mentioned, and he enjoyed what he did. And he began wrestling when he and his wife moved to California because there were more acting options there for her. He didn't think he would continue wrestling because he didn't think there was any wrestling out there. But he did some nosing around and he found wrestling an hour or so from the house. So he started working out to keep his sort of in-ring skills and keep any ring rust off. And then he started being able to do shows, and he really made a name for himself in California. Pretty soon, promoters were finding it advantageous to fly him into the East Coast, which is where most of the independent wrestling was during the 90s, which is the time we're talking about. He began in January of 93. So in January, he will be celebrating 30 years in the wrestling business. So, like I said, they were finding it advantageous to fly him into the East Coast for shows. He was becoming a huge commodity on the independent scene. And in 2002, he did some shows in ECW, and I actually remember it because I remember the character. And I remember loving the character, but also loving his skills, his promos, I loved it. That's where I first saw him, was in ECW. And I didn't really see him after that, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't in any of the big promotions. Well, he was in TNA, and I didn't see a lot of TNA. I saw it sporadically. I have since watched everything that I can gobble up of the old TNA stuff with him and AJ and stuff, and so wish I would have watched it the first time around. um, I should have listened to my friend. Sorry, Doug. And turns out it was some of the best wrestling like ever. And so he started working. He worked in Japan. He worked for every independent imaginable, and he caught the attention of Jeff Jarrett at the same time that AJ Styles did in Australia. He asked them both, will you come to my new promotion, which turned into TNA? And they did. Chris became part of Sex Sports Entertainment Extreme with his partners Low Key and Helix Skipper as Triple X. Low Key did way more stuff in Japan, so it was basically him and Helix, and eventually Low Key left and it became just him and Helix. And they had the chemistry that you would not believe as a team. I mean, as a team, they rival the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, in terms of chemistry. Truly. If you don't believe me, watch the matches, because it's outrageous. And he eventually went on his own in the X division, which we talked about. We talked about the history of wrestling. It was the division of the, well, not really a cruiserweight division, because Samoa Joe was in it. Definitely not a cruiserweight. I love you, Joe, but you're not a cruiserweight. And he would be the first to tell you that. And so, but they were the high flyers and the guys that did just amazing wrestling work. Not just high flying, but wrestling. And so he became a huge star in the division. He became a huge star in Ring of Honor as the head of, and we talked about this briefly, The Prophecy. They used his fallen angel persona as a cult leader, because he came out in like vestments and whatnot as his ring gear, his like ring jacket and stuff, his vestments. Well, his original vestments were real vestments that he borrowed from a priest. His wife found a priest that he could borrow them from because he was going to buy some, and they were so expensive. She said, no, come here. And she had him go to this priest. He said, if there's a deal to be had, Lisa will find it. So, and she did, and he borrowed them from the priest. And he started with investments. I think eventually he had them made, but for a long time they were genuine investments. Just a little interesting piece of trivia. So while he was in TNA, his personal life was beginning to change. In the year 2003, in the fall of 2003, he became a father for the first time to his daughter, Jerica Ellen. Who is now in college. In 2005, he became a father for the second time to his son, Joshua Allen. Joshua's middle name is the first name of AJ Styles, the A in AJ, Allen. And AJ's oldest son, born in May of 2005, so their wives were pregnant at the same time. Middle name is AJ Covell. which of course is the Fallen Angel's last name, his real surname. Excuse me. So, that just shows you how close they were. They wrote their storylines, where am I going? Together. And I think it helped. You know, there was an old show, an old WWE pay-per-view, and they used to do something called In Your House, which were cheap pay-per-views that they did. And one of them was called Good Friends, Better Enemies. And that is so true in the wrestling business. If you're really good friends with your on-screen arch rival, oh my gosh, that makes for the best storylines. Because you are friends, you trust each other completely, you will go at it hard, you will give the best. You really will. And that happened with AJ and CD every single time they went out there. Because they were the best of friends, and still are, as well as CD and Frankie. Eventually, as the years went on, CD and Frankie became a tag team, because they weren't doing anything with either one of them. So, and then they put them in another feud with AJ, which did not come off the way that the three of them wrote it. Actually, Joe wrote it with them. The four of them wrote it at all. So it came off as pretty much a disaster. Just look up Claire Lynch storyline. Yeah. Don't need to go any further than that. Trust me. AJ left the company in January 2014. A few months later, CD and Frankie left the company and showed up in Ring of Honor, leaving behind their team name of Bad Influence from TNA. And I will link you, by the way, to their actual YouTube channel. There's only 5 videos on there, but oh my gosh. It was when they first went to Ring of Honor and stuff. And came to Ring of Honor and became The Addiction. I'll also, well, actually, my Addiction fan site is already in the Varma links, so check that out. During this time, I became a huge fan of Frankie Kazarian. He was showing me so much. I was already a fan of his wife, Tracy Brooks. Anyway, they became Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. They feuded with all the best in Ring of Honor. The Briscoe Brothers, the Young Bucks. Just great teams. And eventually, they did a brilliant storyline. CD was about to challenge the World Heavyweight Championship. They had Frankie turn on him and become part of the Bullet Club. Well, the night of the match, Frankie comes out and you think he's going to hit CD. Nope. Frankie's on CD's side, rips off the Bullet Club t-shirt, and underneath is the CD t-shirt. Stays there, makes sure nothing untoward happened, and CD became the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, or World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, as the old-timers used to say. And I agree, that's what it should be. That's what it says on the belt. And it was just amazing. And so emotional. I'm so glad I got to see it. It happened right after my father died in 2017. CD was champion for a couple of months. Not long after he lost it, well, actually a year and a half later, in 2019, the group, the Bucks, Cody Rhodes, CD, Frankie, a bunch of them, Scorpio Sky, because by then they were SCU, The Addiction was part of SCU with Scorpio Sky. But eventually, Scorpio split off and did his own thing. Went into AEW after their phenomenal pay-per-view All In. And CD was named Executive Vice President of Talent Relations. Now, they say talent relations is a thankless job, but he enjoys it because he gets to spot new talent. He gets to, obviously, deal with disputes and whatnot, but it's part of the job, He gets to train guys. He has a lot of responsibilities, and he's 52 years old. He knows his time in the ring is limited at this point. So to have that nice job, which I'm sure is a well-paying job, I'm quite sure it's a six-figure job. He is still working within the industry when his time in the ring finally does end. Right now he's also working for Defy Wrestling. He is working for New Japan Strong Wrestling, which is out of California. It's a branch of New Japan. They're running out of California. And Defy runs out of Pacific Northwest, specifically Washington State. So, I think they do shows in California, maybe Oregon, I'm not sure. And so that's what he's been doing. Frankie's been working the indies. He's been working AEW. Frankie needs to be champion. But anyway, it is unbelievable the career that CD has had, the titles he has held. I think to him the most important title, I could be wrong, is the title of husband and father. I mean, he got a promo where he said he was a terrible husband, an awful father. No, I don't believe that. First of all, you've been married for 30 years, coming up on 30 years next June 5th. You're doing something right. You raised two kids who've managed to stay out of trouble, stay out of the media, stay out of the spotlight. You're doing something right. His wife, by the way, is a school teacher now. So like I said, they're doing something right. As I mentioned, that's what CD is up to. CD and Frankie lost a match with the Young Bucks where they had to split up. So, which was the plan all along, because CD wanted Frankie to move up. So, hopefully Frankie will. Now let me tell you my own experiences with the fallen angel. And yeah, I can talk. I have been very fortunate. He has DM'd me on Twitter 3-4 times. He is a sweetheart of a man. So kind. So just warm-hearted. My mother said you could see the kindness in his eyes. He wrote to me the first time after I made a tweet about the passing of my father. And he was so kind with his condolences and his love and support and just amazing. He messaged me when I wrote to him and Frankie about the fires in California a couple of years ago, thanking me for my concern and just being the sweetheart that he is. when my mother passed away, he wrote to me. Um, he just has been amazing. On Instagram, he actually commented because I had put up pictures of a couple of my father's old comic books. And because of our conversation on Twitter, he knew the circumstances. And he wrote to me and told me what great taste my dad had in comics, and just amazing. And my mother grew to like him as a human being because of the way he treated me. And I'll never forget that and the impression he made on her. And I want to thank him for that. I'll put his Twitter handle in the description at FAC Daniels. His Instagram handle is Fallen Angel Christopher. I think I'll put them both in the description. That is the Fallen Angel. And I'm so blessed and so fortunate. And Frankie's been awesome to me as well, replying to my tweets and just being a sweetheart, thanking me for my addiction website, just seeming to be in awe that someone would take the time to do it, you know, and just by his words, you know, you could tell that. And I just, I've been very lucky. And I want to thank them both right here publicly. And I think it's important, and I think that's something that is missed in when wrestlers talk about the impact of the internet and social media on wrestling. I think they spend too much time on just the social media aspect of it. In the sense that they spend too much time on talking about how the fans know what, you know, what is going on behind the scenes now, and they know that things are a work and whatever. It's not just that changed the business, and that's, you know, that aspect of the internet that changed the business. It was also the aspect that we know who these people are as people. Like I just told you, my experiences with Christopher Daniels. People talk about their experiences with these wrestlers, good and bad. So you get the good, bad, and the ugly. And so that will change people's opinions. So if you're a babyface and you're a creep, and everybody knows you're a creep, you're going to get booed. If you're a heel, like CD usually is, and they know you have the biggest heart and you're the sweetest guy, guess what? You're going to get cheered. In fact, let me tell you another quick CD story. It was a tiny little girl, maybe 8 years old. They were doing Ring of Honor was doing a special show where fans got to ask different wrestlers questions. And it was CD Stern. This little girl, maybe, like I said, about 8 years old, thanked him for autographing her copy of his comic book that he had written. And she was just really a sweet little girl. He said to, I don't remember who he was standing with, which announcer he was standing with. He said, "Excuse me." And he went around. He went down to the little girl and gave her a big hug. He had tears running down his face. He was so flattered and so honored by this little girl. And that just shows you his heart. You know, he's not the mean, evil fallen angel. In a lot of ways, he is an angel. And I think that and Roddy Piper is another one that had such a wonderful reputation among fans online when they got to talk to each other and say, you know, I met him. Even when he was a heel, he was such a nice man, you know. And I've talked to him myself, by the way, on his original podcast. And I'm telling you, sweetheart, fatherly, told me not to cry because I was about to cry. I mean, it was just one of the most genuine human beings. And that's how I would describe CD, as genuine. Frankie, genuine. And I think that is a part that is like a piece of the puzzle that's missing when you talk about wrestling and how the internet has changed business. Because then you also have guys who have been complete idiots to fans and have a horrible reputation among fans that you might not know about if it hadn't been for the internet. Like Virgil. I'm not the only one that had a bad experience with that dude. He is a creep. And that is my opinion. That was my experience. If you had a different experience, good on ya. But I didn't. And so I think, like I said, that is a piece that's always missing when they talk about the internet's impact on wrestling, is how we perceive the wrestlers regardless of whether they're playing the heel or bad guy or the face or baby face, the good guy. What fans have discovered, actually, is that most of the heels are much nicer people than most of the baby faces. I don't know why, and it's been discussed over and over again online. One of the best boards to go to for this is the Crap Hole, guaranteed. Love that board. I think I'm a Midnight Express lady or something like that over there. But yeah. I do think it's important, though, that part of it is mentioned, and I think mentioning it in conjunction with CD's bio and talking about my experience with CD is not going off topic. That's just my opinion, because I think it's highlighting what I told you about CD and giving you other examples. Thank you all for being here, for watching this video. Let's get this as many views as Jim Cornette, and let's give this one some likes, would you? I will see you tomorrow for my grocery haul. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.